but I want to know, what's your process for developing a bit or a set or even an entire special? How do you do it? What's your process?
Um, I've been doing it for 30 years and I really don't have one. I work sometimes a joke in a perfect world, and I think the bits that I feel the best about and that I think people remember the most are when I have, like I read the New York Times and then there's an issue in there that I feel passionate about and that I feel like I have something to say about. And then I start figuring out what the bit is. And that takes the longest time, because getting from making a point to a bit that usually has a lot of steps to it. That's usually a longer bit when it's like that. And you
Are
finish
you doing
it.
it mostly in your head, or are you writing it down, or are you
No,
saying
write
it
it,
out
write it,
loud?
write it, write it, keep writing it, longhand, pages and pages. And then you go back and you grab a line here and a line there, and then you bring it on stage, and it never works. When you do it that way, it never works. And
Never.
and it can take, I'm not exaggerating when I say it can take years to come up with a bit that way. So in a perfect world, that's how I write my whole act. And it's an act that's all like, substantial and, informed. And then you have other jokes where a line comes to you and it's like this little gift from God. You might be on stage riffing one night and you say something off the top of your head, and all of a sudden you go like, "Oh, that's going to work for me for the next 2, 3 years that I continue to do that." And you just know it right away. And so you have to do the honest work. You have to try to write that bit out of the New York Times. That's your job. And you aspire to be that kind of comedian. But then I've also been like, I've always thought that George Carlin kind of nailed it by doing whatever he thought was funny. He would do like a really insightful bit about the Catholic Church,
Hmm.
um, and then he would do a fart joke that
Yeah.
was just as funny. And I tried to never have a sort of shame about doing a joke that I thought was dirty, because I can be a very dirty comedian,
Yeah, you
but
can.
I never think of it as dirty. I just think of it as, this is what makes me laugh, and so this is what I feel like talking about on stage. What also makes me laugh is doing a bit about how Americans take water for granted and that we're a spoiled rich nation and third world country. And so I start there and I come up with a bit out of that. But um, when you're doing a Friday night late show in Cleveland and the room's half empty and they're drunk, and you're trying to do a bit about socioeconomic, you know, natural resources, and they go, yeah,
Uh,
and then you go, I sharted last week, and
yeah.
they're back and they're with you, and so I don't know. I've always thought that
You
it's
kind of
like
go
a
both
knife
ways.
fight. Yeah, it's a knife fight. It's like doing stand up is always like, what do you got? What tools do you have? And use whichever ones you can, and start high and see where you end up.